Well, welcome to another Bible study with Brother Bob. Several people have asked me if I would say something about what the Bible says about the subject of predestination. One of the interesting aspects of a study of this word is that there are so few New Testament references that use the word in the original language. For example, probably the best known text, Ephesians chapter 1. Specifically, we can look at verse 5. We'll begin in verse 4 with the reading. He chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us. And that is mentioned again in verse 11 of Ephesians 1. In him we were chosen, having been predestined according to his plan, the plan of him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of his will. Two other well-known texts come out of the context of Romans chapter 8, verses 29 and 30. These two verses use the word in this way. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers, verse 30, and those he predestined, he also called. Interesting to note that there are only two other passages in all of the New Testament where the same Greek word is used. And I think we'll be helped by reading those passages together. One of them is in Acts chapter 4, verse 28. They did what your power and will had decided beforehand should happen. Now, I'm reading from the NIV, but obviously we have a significantly different translation. To decide beforehand. Or if we were to go to the text of 1 Corinthians chapter 2, we would again see the same word being used and a rather interesting use of the word. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, and specifically we want to read together verse 7, but consider the context. The text says this, "No, we speak of God's secret wisdom, a wisdom that has been hidden and that God destined for our glory before time began." Now the question is, what in the world does that mean? What is the meaning of this word? Well, you may recognize that there's a prefix, P-R-O. The prefix means before. The Greek word proorizo is very much like our word horizon. To establish a horizon. You think with me about a horizon, and a horizon is simply a line of separation. We look at the horizon, it's the place where the land and the sky are separated. It's the place where one stops and the other begins. So perhaps we could be helped by looking at the root meaning of that little word. I have a number of texts. I'm not going to read all of those texts with you. You can stop the video and study those texts. But if we were to summarize what's said in all of these texts where the word is proorizo, that is horizon, to establish a horizon, here are some of the possible translations. Determine, to put, to fix, to establish, especially to establish limits, to define, to declare, or to set apart. And in the list of verses that I provided for you, you will find that all of those meanings are possibilities depending on the context. What does it mean that God established a line of demarcation, a line of separation before the foundation of the world? What's the idea of predestination? I like to describe the idea in this way. God has established a dividing point. He said, everyone on this side of the line will be mine. Those on the other side of the line will not be mine. But here's the most important point biblically about predestination. You and I have the privilege, we have the right, we have the opportunity, as long as we live in this world, we have the opportunity to decide which side of the line we want to be on. Do not hear the Bible saying God both drew a line and decided who would be on which side of the line. That's not the way biblical predestination works. Biblical election, biblical predestination is a process of defining those who will be God's, and we have the opportunity to make our own choices. I think that's made pretty clear as we come back and conclude with a reading in Ephesians chapter 1. We begin with the same verses with which we began are the verses we're going to conclude with. Listen again to the text. He chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Jesus Christ. You hear not only the establishing of the line, you also hear a definition of how the decision will be made. Those who are holy, those who are blameless in his sight, those who have been adopted as his sons, those who are in Christ. So predestination does not mean that our eternity is beyond our control. It means that God has established the limits. He has drawn the line, if you will, the horizon. And you and I have the wonderful privilege to make a decision. Whom will we serve? Which side do we want to be on? I trust you'll want to be on God's side. If I can help you in any way to make a decision, understand what the Bible says about being on God's side, I want to do that. Be in touch with me. Let's study the Bible together. Thank you for sharing this study with me. Until next time, God bless.